Hello and welcome, my name is Lunami and this week we're talking about Aislings Focus and breaking it down to see what it can do, how you can use it, in what situations you can use it more or less in team fights and solo play, because it can offer so much to your team but can also destroy a team fight in a matter of seconds, and you practically want to avoid that if possible unless you're trying to peel for your team. Now jumping into what Terrify does. Terrify emits from K-Door in a 10-meter radius. Enemies caught with inside it are launched, slowed and weakened for 4, 6 and 8 seconds depending on how many focus charges you got. They are also damaged for about 200 to probably about 400 health. When using Terrify, you've got to think about where K-Door is located, where you want to place him and where you want it to be used, as K-Door emits Terrify. So depending on the situation of where your enemies are located, the enemies will be launched into that direction. So it's a 360 range, but it only reaches for about 10 meters, and then on top of that, the enemies have got to be facing in the right direction and on the right side of K-Door to be sent in that direction. So diving right into how we use Terrify, you want to think of location, location, location. The location of you and your team, the location of K-Door, and the location of the enemy team. If you do it wrong, it will not work well, as you will be shooting enemies off in different directions, which you don't really technically want unless you're going to peel or try and destroy a team fight. So moving right into the location, you've got to think about the location of more or less Aislings. So imagine her area of attack is about this. Imagine that goes under there, so that would be the area attack. So you got to remember that this is where K-Door will be in the center. So you got to think of anybody in that will be knocked out, and it'll be knocked out based on a north, east, south, west division kind of divide. So anybody that's within that sort of area will be knocked out over here, and anybody within this area will be knocked out over here, and anybody in this area will be knocked out over here. And anybody will be knocked out over here. Also, it goes in a cone, so Aislings Focus goes up. So if you're here in the air, say like Beckett jetpacking, you will actually shoot off the screen and then more or less into the skybox. So you just got to remember that it's a cone with a aerial direction, and you'll be sent off in the direction you are in. So if you're just standing here, you will end up over here. If you're standing here, you will end up out here. And it's just a general 360 and aerial knock-up, so it's more of a sphere. It even goes underground, funny enough. So it actually affects underground as well. But you're never going to go underground. So when it comes to engaging an enemy with Aislings Focus, you mostly want to be placing K-Door in a location which will affect the enemy team. So if you place K-Door there and you want to focus the enemy team that's here, this will end up knocking the enemy team into that wall, stopping them. All momentum will be completely stopped, so they will end up in this wall. All their momentum will be stopped, they will be weakened, and your team will be able to initiate on them in that kind of manner. It's the same for any kind of direction, like you can place it behind an enemy team, which will knock the enemy team directly into your team. And in doing so, they will be disorientated and fully weakened, so they will not be able to deal their true damage, and your team will be able to pummel them to death, more or less, in that situation. It's the same for any objects. You want to be really maximizing object use and location of K-Door when using your focus. Otherwise, it's just going to flop, and you're just going to shoot enemies off in any direction if you just chuck it into a team fight, which you do not want to be doing overall. Because that's the last thing you want, is enemies just being scattered around and you just lose kills by saving their lives by shooting them off in some backwards direction. Jumping straight along into peeling. So when peeling with Aislings Focus, you want to be placing your focus kind of in front of the enemy. So K-Door needs to be summoned here in this area, so then it will knock the enemy back. So this will send the enemy back flying. So this is the enemy, this black stick figure here. He will be sent back over here and down here, and he will still be knocked away, but you can do it for the whole team, so the whole team can be just shot away, which is really nice for general peeling. But if you're going to do something like that, always use probably like one focus for like peels. Never use any like 2 or 3 focus, because you'll just be wasting focus otherwise on something that you're not really maximizing on, because the peel on this skill will not benefit over the peel on the Q. So you want to be using the peel on the Q more than the peel of the focus. But it's always handy for like shooting a team out if you know you're losing a team fight and you just want to get them away from all your team. But just remember, you can also sometimes shoot an enemy into your team, which is on low HP, securing the enemy the kill. So you want to be careful on the direction you really want to be placing Kador. So always place Kador in a location that will benefit you and not benefit the enemy team. If you want to test anything like this, Valley is probably the best map to test Aislings focus on or practice on in general, as there's so many walls and obstacles you can shoot enemy teams into, which is really nice. So I'll just go here and say the enemy is about here. So the enemy is here and you have a focus and you're like standing up here or something, or back here. What you can do is drop Kador in on this side here and then focus, and the enemy team will just go smack into this wall here, and they will lose all momentum. All their skills will just be knocked onto cooldown and stuff if they're in skills, and they will be weakened, which means your team can then pummel the hell into the guys that are all on this wall. And then you can probably lock them down with like a Voden stun if you team up with Voden, because I always mostly play with Voden because the kill boy is always on Voden or either a Charnock, and it's a really nice duo for like Voden stuns, roots, and then a Charnock ult just to go in and just clear up this side path here. So it's really nice just to try and knock out the enemy. It's the same on quite a lot of the walls around here. Say you want to do a fight in here, so the enemy team is pretty much here, one there, and one here. You might have an odd one here and the odd one here or something. You basically can drop Kador in the middle here, and what it'll do is shoot this guy up into this wall, knocking them out more or less. This guy over into this wall, this one into this wall, that one to be shot out around the corner, that one to be shot out around the corner, which leaves 3 in the middle for your picking, and these 2 are left out the zone, which you can then kind of clean up, but it depends on your team. So this focus needs a lot of team coordination to use it really well, especially if you're trying to pick it up with kills. Thank you all for watching. I hope this gives you a better insight on how to use Aislings Focus Terrify. If you have any questions, drop them below. Feel free to like and subscribe, and see you all on the flip side.